Blah, blah. David. Hi. Hi, Corte de Vista. Today we will speak with David Borenstein, director of the movie Mr. Nobody Against Putin. We are in the Docks Barcelona, and let's see what he can tell to us. Let's start with like some basic question. Where came the idea of your movie? Why you start to film about the Russia? And I know like the process of searching the character was like via Instagram. How it was? Can you explain a little bit like the background of your movie?
So the main character, Pasha, he responded to a casting call on Instagram. A Russian web content company was looking for characters throughout Russia whose work had been affected by the quote-unquote special military operation in Ukraine. And so Pasha sent a very crazy email back to them, or message back to them, basically saying, I'm filled with grief and dread. I've been turned into a propagandist. My school is militarizing at breakneck speed. In just the span of a few weeks, my whole life is falling apart here. So I mean, he filled with emotion. And then, through a series of coincidences, that message was transferred to me because the Russian web content company that got it couldn't do it. Obviously, they're from Russia. They need a foreigner to help make this film. And so it ended up in my hands. I started talking with Pasha. I thought he was a very interesting guy, a compelling character. I thought he had something to show the world from his school that was important for the world to see. So I started working with him.
So it wasn't your search. You just received this mail via your transfer friends or some your recording. Wow. So and how was the process to work with somebody who live in different country? Then you can really control and how it was working with like this character in different like.
Yeah, it was incredibly hard, especially at first when I still had the idea that I would be able to control the project. When I still had this idea that I would help him. He's never directed a film before, but I would help him figure out what it is he should film and give him guidance. That was impossible. Pasha has his own mind, he has his own thoughts, and he's the one in that school. The key to collaborating with Pasha was about actually giving up myself and realizing that this needs to be a true collaboration with Pasha, that we're co-directors. He's going to film exactly what he wants to film. The footage is going to represent his true first-person perspective.
Okay.
So much that we're going to see him walking down the halls, we're going to see him shooting as he gets his lunch from the lunch lady in the cafeteria, and we're going to lean into it. That's how we're going to make the film. So our collaboration was he shoots, I edit, and I write. And it was very clean and simple. He is his own person. He films because he's angry. He films because he's political. He films because he feels so trapped. And filming for him is an emotional experience and something that it comes very naturally from him. I mean, it's very difficult to guide him, and I found out it wasn't necessary. There was some shots in the film where someone else was filming him, and I did arrange a little bit of extra shooting for those reasons to be able to see him. But the vast majority of shooting is him himself.
What's happened right now with Pasha? Where is his live? What's storm with his life? He became a big director right now. He started to make his movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy life for him. Just last year at this time, he was making just a few €100 a month as the teacher in Karabakh Primary School number 1. Now he's living in Europe and has this film that's going around to all the festivals. So it's a huge change. It's not a completely easy change. He left his whole life. He doesn't speak English, he only speaks Russian. And so it's not a super smooth transition, but he's fairly set up. He doesn't have to worry about finances for like another year or so. So that's settled. And he's just learning English right now. That's his only responsibility.
Perfect. And right now we will start a terrible question, I know, but I need to ask it. What do you think your movie is about?
For me, the role of the director in my mind is to get people to think. It's not to force them to think any one way or another. Maybe that's more the role of propaganda.
Yeah.
But for me, documentaries is about getting people to think about things themselves.
Yeah.
Now, there were lots of things that I was thinking about when I watched the footage and when I was making it. for me, what was interesting was looking at how quickly institutions can change.
Yeah.
Russian yourself, you know how much Russia has changed in the last 2.5 years. And I was able to, as the editor, experience that while looking at the footage that Pasha was continually sending to me. So it's a very interesting reminder of how quickly institutions can slip out of our grasp. That's interesting to me. Another thing is how quickly propaganda can become normalized. We've seen in the beginning of this film, everyone's laughing at the propaganda and the new patriotic education. By the end, it was different. It was more normalized, and the younger kids are starting to really look and trust their teachers and start to look at this as something that's normal. Yeah. And then for me, what was also very interesting while looking at the footage was thinking about Pasha as a character. That's probably what's most interesting to me, because at the end of the day, I'm not an expert in Russia, or I'm not an expert in what's happening in Russia right now, but I like to tell stories. That's my vocation. And I found Pasha to be an incredibly compelling character, and it was my job to bring him out as a character and convince him that he should be a character, which wasn't always obvious to him. But for me, in Pasha's story, I see a tale about what do you do when you live in a completely suffocating environment, when the walls are closing in on you, when everything that you built, this classroom that he loves, these kids that he's created a space for, when all of that just comes tumbling down and you see absolutely no hope other than that. So what do you do? And I hope, at least for me, that there are a lot of things to get people to think about the psychology of living in a very repressive situation where you see no hope.
Did you support Pasha in this? Because like you're shooting during a lot of years, how I understand, like 2 or 3 years, right? Was the shooting process?
Yeah.
So did you support, because in some moment, how I understand, he had like really like dangerous and weird situation with the school too.
We supported. We talked with him. I talked with him every week, and we became very close friends. We worked with the BBC. We worked with public broadcasters who gave us security advice. And so I was able to give him some best practices and some ideas on how to stay safe, which he didn't always listen to. He was way braver than we were. Maybe too brave, maybe too bold, as you can see maybe in the film. But yeah. And then last question.
Yeah.
Do you think the film industry have a sort of a social responsibility with him?
Do we have a responsibility to take care of him?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So a huge part of this film was that we could not make it unless Pasha left, because if you were to remain in Russia, if we did release the film at Sundance or something, then you get in a lot of trouble. So a huge part of our financing plan was getting enough money to help him immigrate to Europe, and then having enough money to make sure that he can live here for 2 years without any economic problems.
Yeah, of course.
To be able to acclimate and learn English and figure out a plan. So I think the responsibility of the production towards him is immense. He sacrificed a lot to make this film. He sacrificed his whole life to make the film, basically. And he's providing public discourse in all the countries that have purchased this film for broadcast, which are many. A huge contribution to public discourse. And so, yeah, I mean, I think he's entitled to being protected and being helped.
Yeah. Well, last question. Did somebody from Russia from this movie have seen this movie?
Everybody saw it.
And do you have some like comments or something?
It's all over the place. I mean, in Karabakh, everybody's watched it. Some people have sent him messages saying, never come back here again, or it's going to be the last thing you do. But other people like it.
Okay.
You know, and some other teachers in other towns around Karabakh, you know, in Chelyabinsk and stuff. Yeah, they sent him some messages and said, you know, somebody needed to do this. Some teacher needed to do this.
Yeah.
We never thought it would be someone from Karabakh.
Yeah.
But they were happy that some teacher did it. You know, a lot of teachers in the last few years have quit in Russia. Pasha told me that like more than 100,000 teachers have quit in the last few years.
Yeah.
I'll text you where we go. If you're gonna tear down.
Yeah.
And then I'll send you on Instagram the address. You can join us.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I need to figure out where we're going. See you.